Hi there, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the restoration of another Norwegian radio. This is my second one, and this one also came from Norway, donated to the channel by a friend who also donated the previous and first Norwegian radio I restored, that little Tandberg Portable. I'll leave a link to that project below. And this one again is all in wood, and it looks in pretty good shape as well. There are a few little scrapes and dings, but nothing serious, and it really is rather different. It's a Østfold, that's the company, a Mascot 55. This is the model 642, and unfortunately, I cannot find any service manual on it. So this could be a little bit of a challenge. I don't know if it's working. I've prepared the socket at the back there, the plug rather. It doesn't fit into my dim bulb limiter, but I'm going to put the voltage down low from the variac and connect it up so we can find out together if this thing works at all. This is supposed to be mains or battery operated, so we'll see what we can get out of it. Now, there isn't that much to it. It's actually a pretty simple radio. There's a control here, and these are separate. I presume this is volume and tone, and of course they assume you're going to find out soon enough, so that they don't even put it on here. It's not even labeled. There's something called lys. I think that means light. I do not speak Norwegian. I think that means light. Usually that only comes on. You only need to press it when you use the battery function, if it's anything like the German sets. And other than that, we've got the dial glass, which is in perfect condition. And there's another knob on that side. And this one is, this is also a separate one. And the bottom one is moving the pointer on the FM, so that's separate to the AM. And the AM is also moving, so the dial cord is fine. We've got the model number, Mascot 55FM, and then we've got something here that says net, AV, and battery. Oh, I'm being stupid. There's a button on the side here. This one goes that way, that way, that way. So that'll be mains. AV, I presume, is off. And that would be battery. This thing's a bit loose and it's a little bit cracked there. So we'll need to fix that. The other thing I noticed is that the FM goes all the way to 108. So this one is from 1963-64. I was born in 63, so this is exactly my age, or minus a year or a few months. And it is in very good condition. Certainly a lot better than the Restorer right now. Very little wrong with it. It needs a bit of a cleanup. I don't know what the function is like. There is nothing here superfluous to the absolute minimum needs. The buttons at the top are indicated here. They're not even indicated on the top. So we've got bass. I presume this is if you want extra bass. FM, long wave, medium wave, and short wave. And that's it. We've got the long wave dial there, the medium wave, short wave, and the FM. That's all I can show you. Let me see the side and the back. But before I carry on, I want to thank the sponsors of this video, PCBWay. You'll find them at PCBWay.com. And they're the people I go to for all the PCBs that I use in my projects. But of course, they don't just do PCBs. They also do 3D printing, which I've used before to great success. They do CNC machining, sheet metal fabrication, injection molding, and a host of other services that'll take your project right from the beginning all the way to a fully assembled project, if that's what you desire. If you look at the list of products and capabilities, they've got a huge array of services. I'm sure you'll find something for your needs. The back is just as stark. That's the antenna end. That'll be a long wire antenna there. That is the phono input, the ground. What does N stand for? That's external speaker or headphone, I suppose. Problem is I can't find a schematic for this, but it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem at all. We've got a label on the inside that says Østfold Radio A/S type 642. This is 220 volts, 50 hertz, so European. And what does N and D stand for? 6 watts down there. How do we remove this guy? These things aren't screws, so how does this thing come out? It's probably a lot easier than... Bloody hell. Idiot. It just clips on. Okay. And I was saying I couldn't find a service manual or schematic. And look what we have here. What a great idea. Full schematic. It's very small, but it's got everything there. I love it. I love this whole concept. This one isn't even put in the back. It's stuck in the back. What a beauty. And we've got the service sticker here. So this was sold for 656.25 krona. And it includes whatever that means. I think that's probably the licensing fee of 52.5. In those days you had to pay for a license fee, a radio license. Yep, we had that in South Africa as well. We had that in Portugal. I guess you had it everywhere. And then there's the model number and the serial number, and I don't know what that number there is for. So yeah, it's all here. Oh, that's probably 22nd week of 1964. So this is about a year younger than me. Okay, I still have seniority on this one. Let's have a look at the inside. These things will be germanium transistors, I'm sure. Yeah, here we go. Power transformer over there. It's hidden behind this shield, but it is a power transformer. This thing here is to put batteries in. A rather simple way to do it. You put 4 of them there, and I believe you put 2 more of them there. Talk about minimalist. So this would take 6 D cells, and we've got a pretty nice big speaker here. And again, reminds me of that Tandberg, which also had a fantastic sound, really great sound for the size of radio that we had. We've got a few transistors I can see here. There's one there, one there. Are these things on sockets? I believe they are. Yeah, look at this. These transistors are socketed. Oh man, I love it. I love it. I love it. So easy to change. How many transistors do we have? We've got one there, 1, 2, 3. Is that all? Well, let's have a look at the schematic. No, there's a lot more. There's 9. There are 9 transistors in total. So some of them will be the other types, probably on the back side of the board maybe. Or maybe I'm just being blind at the moment. And we have 2 transformers, the interstage coupling transformer and the output power transformer. These radios used these transformers to drive the speakers, which gave them a unique sound. If you don't know, look up Deaky amp as it relates to Queen and Brian May's guitar sound. One of his signature pieces of gear was a little amplifier that was made from actually a radio that was built originally, I think, in Zimbabwe or Rhodesia, as it was then, called the Supersonic, which was found by Deacon in a trash can. John Deacon, who was an electronic engineer or a student of electronic engineering, converted the output stage, the audio stage, to a little practice amplifier for guitar. And I believe Brian May tried it once and found that he liked the sound, and this thing made a particular type of distortion, and he used it on a lot of recordings. There are another 2 transistors. There's one, there's one. These will be the output transistors. So we'll find them, never mind. What I'm really concerned about is, does this thing work at all? And regardless of whether it works or not, we're going to get it to work. But even if it does work from the get-go, I'm going to replace all the electrolytics, because these guys are as old as me, and if they feel like I do, they need some revamping. Pity we can't do it to ourselves. Anyway, let me turn this around and power it up slowly and see what we get. I'm going to be powering it from the mains, but I will drop the mains voltage down and bring it up slowly on the variac, and we'll see what happens. I purposely left this to do it with you, so we can both be pleasantly surprised or mutually shocked. I hope not literally. Okay, let's see what we have to do here. I'm actually going to put it on FM, which is that one. I don't really care where this is. I'm going to switch it on the radio, and according to that, I've got to do it counterclockwise. So counterclockwise. This is off at the dim bulb. There's no power coming in yet. I think it's ready to receive power from the mains. We'll put the volume, I won't put it full blast. Now, as far as the variac's concerned, it's at about 100 volts. My mains here is 230. So I've put it at 100. I'm putting one light bulb only, that one, 40 watts. I'll put it on. I can already hear it. It's drawing very little current. I've got something. Put the antenna up. Now this thing is really starved because I'm getting less than half the voltage. And I've got the dim bulb. And it's already receiving. So let me put the voltage up. Yeah, we can hear it coming back to life. It's full mains voltage, 230 volts. It's drawing 30 milliamps. I've still got the dim bulb in with one light bulb. I don't want to risk it. So let's see where we are. It's quite a bit of crackling, which is not normal. I shouldn't be receiving all that crackling noise. Yeah, it's receiving. The dial bulb is on. It's receiving, but it's very, very crackly. Let's see if I put it on shortwave. Put the antenna up. Yeah, it's receiving very well. And this is with no external antenna. This crackling noise, I think, is from either the power supply or the output stage. It's constant. Let's try medium wave. That's the local station. It's receiving with a ferrite. No external antenna on here. How do I switch it off? Oh, I've got to switch it off on the side. Okay. Well, that's great news. That is really great news. This thing seems to be working on all bands. There's quite a bit of crackling going on, and that's definitely not band related. It's not band dependent. The crackling seems to be generalized, so I think it'll either be the power supply or the audio stage. Not surprising, those capacitors must be damn near the end of life. So this is a great place to start. We've got a radio that's working. And I think it's probably going to be, there I go again, I'm going to say it. It's probably going to be fairly simple. I hope I'm not inviting catastrophe as I normally do when I say that. But I think it's probably going to be fairly simple because everything is working. So all we need to do now is to improve it. And improving it means we've got to replace caps. We've got all those capacitors to replace. And we'll try it again when I've done that and see if we hear any difference. I think we probably will. I don't think there's much wrong with this. Maybe there's a bit of alignment required. Some of these have not even been opened. So I don't think they've messed with this, which is a good thing. I didn't check the alignment, the dial accuracy when I was doing that on FM. But let me take this one step at a time. So let me sort out the capacitors first. We'll try it again and see what else we need to do. I've got the chassis out of the cabinet, and I think the way I took it out deserves a bit of a mention. Maybe even just to remind me when I put it back. You see, when I looked at the back of this, it was a bit strange. This is not the conventional way of removing a chassis from a cabinet. In fact, it's probably precedes the slip out version that you see later. And when I looked at this thing from the back, I just couldn't figure out exactly how, and I couldn't find any instructions. So I did the first thing that I thought was logical. I took off the knobs. They just unscrew and come out. And then I looked at the back and I tried to figure out which of these screws I had to remove. And it turns out I only had to remove 2, but I removed 4. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You see, the only thing that holds the entire assembly to the front is this screw over here, which screws onto this bracket. And what I did was, and of course there's one on the other side as well, identical to that. So what I did was I removed these two. So the entire bracket came out, and I did the same on the other side. So at the moment I have 4 little screws that came out. The way you do it is you take the screws out, and then you have to sort of bend it out, you know, bend it down, sort of pull it out, because remember, you've got to take these knobs off the top, and you've got to take the pots out of there as well. So it's got to come out and down, okay? It just did it, okay? And then there's one wire that you need to cut or desolder, and that is this antenna wire, which just solders to the back there. You can actually desolder it. I decided to cut it, and I leave a little bit of red sleeving on that wire so I know exactly where to tape it back. And what I have at the moment is the entire thing out of the cabinet. It's connected by these wires over here and the speaker wires, and I've connected my power supply to the positive of the battery there and the negative at the top there. So that's 0 volts, 9 volts. Remember, this thing is 6 D cells. And then of course you make sure that this goes to the right. So clockwise, remember, counterclockwise was mains. This is, whoa, battery. So we've got that on. And I've got it on, I've got nothing coming through because my power supply switched off. So when I switch on the power supply now, it's working. I've got it on FM. I've got this thing connected to the antenna position over there. And I'm just going to make sure that the AM works as well. So I'll put it on medium wave. And to get that to work, I'll put my little loop over here and switch on the mini whip. There we go. So this is going to be useful because, in fact, what I'm going to do is switch off at the power supply. This is going to be useful because what it means is that in the position that it's in, I can replace caps, maybe 1 or 2 at a time, and test it. Replace caps, test it. And that's the way I normally do it, because this thing has got a lot of little wires around here. You see all that? There's a lot of little wires. These things are probably pretty brittle. There are a few caps here that I need to replace. These electrolytics. And I can reach them from the bottom. I think on this side, there's only, let me just follow this through. There is, I think this is an electrolytic. I'm not sure. I have to check what that capacitor is. That one, 1, 2. So there are 2 on this side. There's nothing else on the underside, thankfully, because it's very difficult to get to the bottom there. And then on the other side, that's where all the little hair wires are. You see all those little things over there? You can hardly see them. These are the little wires from the coils. There are quite a few of them. You've got to be very, very careful. Just recently in a recent project, I showed you just how careful you have to be. If those things get torn away, it can be a bit of a nightmare to restore. And then you've got, what have we got here? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there another one there? No, there isn't. But there are these little guys here. I'll check on the schematic and see if they are electrolytics. If they are, yes, I bet you they are. This is 5 microfarads. So these will be electrolytics as well. I probably will replace them. I'll try and avoid replacing the FM discriminator cap, which I think is that guy over there. If I can get the FM to work well and it's balanced, I normally avoid replacing that one. But I'll just do this one at a time, follow this through carefully. There is another transistor under here. And other than that, I'll check a few resistors, see what they're like. These resistors, meh. It sort of depends on the lot that you get. It's really your lot. Sometimes they are all pretty close to the original value, to the proper value, and sometimes they're all off. Generally, if you find 1 or 2 that are off, you might as well check all the others. But I'll do it one step at a time. First things first, I'm going to replace the caps. Oh, there is one more set of capacitors, and those are down there in the power supply. You see this little shield over there? That's where the transformer is, and I bet you the diodes are there, the rectifier, and I see an electrolytic there. That's probably the first one I need to replace. But I think this thing comes off quite easily. Just remove a screw there, and I think maybe one down here. This should come out quite easily. I'll probably do that one first, and then I will go onto the board. I will not separate. I don't think I have to. I don't think I will separate the this umbilical cord, these wires, from the board if I can avoid it. If I do need to, I'm going to desolder them on that those solder strips over there, because it's probably easier to get to than it is on the radio itself. Okay, I'll replace the caps and get back to you. Let's interrupt the regular program because I found something that's pretty interesting and I want you to see it, because I don't think I've ever seen this before. You see, when I opened this up, I thought all I'd find would be the main filter capacitor, a couple of diodes. As it happens, I didn't find any diodes. I found a little dual diode selenium rectifier. That's a pretty small one. I've never seen one that small, and I'm going to replace it with silicon diodes anyway. There is a coil, and I started seeing that this had a lot more than I expected, especially when I saw that incandescent light bulb over there. Now, I've never seen one of these before on a power supply, and I think it makes perfect sense. Let me show you the schematic and I'll tell you why I think this is in there. This is a positive ground supply, so the positive goes to the ground, to the chassis, and then everything else is negative from that, which is, it really messes with my head. I don't know why, but this logic messes with my head. Every time I work on a positive ground supply, for some reason, all my logic goes out the window, but it shouldn't make any difference, but for some reason it does. So I looked a bit closer at this and I found the schematic was pretty interesting. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You see, here we have the power supply section, and I thought this was interesting for various reasons. One of them, as I said, it's a positive ground, so the positive of the battery goes to ground, not the negative. But other than that, of course, this goes in there and then it switches between battery and the actual mains source, the voltage that comes from the rectified mains. And this is where it gets interesting. You see, this would be a normal full wave rectifier with a center tap. Normally you would see the diodes flip the other way, but because you're trying to create negative voltage over here, not positive, remember, your positive is ground, and in fact, there it is there, you're creating negative. So this is negative and that is positive. This is like the the ground and the minus B plus, okay? There's a 2500 microfarad capacitor here. I'm going to replace that with a 47 because I've got a 22, but there's never, it's not a problem putting a slightly bigger capacitor here. These diodes are going to be replaced with silicon diodes. And then there is what I believe is a Xena diode. Now this is a strange one. Maybe I'm misreading the symbol, but I believe it's a Xena diode. And there's an inductor to ground, and I think this would probably be an 8-volt Xena. Is that right? If you know differently, let me know in the comments. But it's got this thing over here, this light bulb, and that is that light bulb that's in there. And what I think happens, what I know happens, is this: you get minus 8 volts, say over here, and then the positive, before it gets to the transformer, it goes from ground through, remember the return path is the other way, so it comes from ground through the light bulb to the center tap of the transformer. So what it does is it acts as a dim bulb limiter. It acts as its own short circuit protection here. If you have a short and too much current starts flowing through there, this light bulb will light up like crazy and it will cut the voltage that goes from the center tap to ground, dropping a voltage so that it reduces the damage. And I looked it up and I've seen other instances where after I searched, I found other instances where they put this in, and they say that this was commonly used with germanium transistor sets because the germanium transistors were very expensive and they were more sensitive. They were sensitive. Remember that this was straight after tubes where you can probably blast them with 30% over voltage without a problem, if not more. And with these germanium transistors, they put this light bulb in there. Now, the light bulb, when I measured the cold resistance, it measures about 13 ohms or something. So this thing, when it's drawing normal current, it'll probably drop a couple of volts, maybe 1 volt. It won't be a big deal. It might not even light up. And I'm going to try it. I'm going to switch it on. It might light up very dimly. And if you get this thing really glowing, then you know you've got a short. and that's when you put it off. But at least it will probably protect your circuit from overcurrent if you have a short in there. And yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. The other thing I thought was pretty unusual is that there's actually a separate winding on the transformer for the dial lamp. And what happens here is when you have mains selected, I don't even want to go through the switching here because again my brain goes backwards when I look at the positive grounds. When mains is selected, this light bulb's always on. When the battery is selected, you push that button, that little black button on the front, and that gives you a dial lamp. So your dial lamp only works full time when you got mains, and the logic is that there's more power than you need, so you can actually afford to waste it on light. But when you're running it on batteries, these light bulbs did draw quite a bit of current. They didn't want you to drain your batteries unnecessarily, so you would push the button, just push in, push to make, release to break when you want to see the dial. I thought that's pretty cool. So what am I going to do on here? I'm going to replace the diodes with silicon diodes. I've got to remember to put them in that direction because this is sort of counterintuitive. The capacitor again, and again, this top part is the negative of the capacitor. And I will leave the Zener in there. It's actually bolted to a heatsink, so it looks pretty rustic, pretty big. I don't think there's a problem there. So that's all I need to replace on that power supply section. Then I can just clean the switch and screw it back on. I thought that was great. I don't see a fuse. That's the one thing I don't see, or I haven't seen yet. It's probably hidden on the underside. I haven't seen a fuse, and it clearly says here there's a fuse. Now, maybe it's one of those that's inside the transformer that breaks open or opens up when it overheats. These symbols mean nothing to me. I mean, this is, first of all, it's from 1963. There are quite a few symbols that were just inventing then, like the transistor one. So they might have taken a few liberties with other symbols as well. And secondly, this is Norwegian, so maybe some of the conventions they use there could be slightly different. I'm not too worried about things like net and bat. That's obvious. That's mains and battery. Dial lamp, I think that makes sense. And the rest, yeah, that's it. I'm going to change. Oh, let me just switch it on. Let's see if the light bulb goes on. I haven't tested that yet. Let's do that. I've got it on. Yeah, the left is mains. Counterclockwise is mains. I've got my own dim bulb limiter on the mains supply switched off at the moment. I'm going to switch it on. The radio should come on. And indeed, it does glow. Yep, there is a dim glow on there. So it does do a little bit of reduction. The other thing I believe it does is that it actually does, let me switch it off. It does sort of absorb small fluctuations on the main supply that goes through the transformer, because the actual resistance of the filament will change depending on how much current is going through. So the more current that goes through, the hotter it gets, the higher the resistance, and therefore it reduces the current. It works fantastically. It's exactly the way a dim bulb limiter works on mains. Okay, back to the regular program. And I'm afraid the regular program is going to have a few jumps in it. And the reason is I lost some footage again. I got the footage, didn't get the microphone connected. So it was bloody awful. So I'm just going to explain to you what I did. And it worked out pretty well. I mean, there's a bit of damage. This is the damage. All the capacitors. By the way, I did remove the plug, and I put one that now fits on my normal socket. There's that big cap. All the electrolytics were replaced. All of them. This was the 2500. That's the one I replaced with 4700. 320s, which I replaced with 330s. There are a few hundreds, and all these were 5 microfarads. I replaced them all, and I checked some of them, and they're all way out. So they definitely need replacing. And the fact that everything is back in the cabinet might tell you what the result was. But I will elaborate a bit further. You can see some of the caps that I've got here. Some of them are on this side. There are a few more there. These are the little ones, the 5 microfarads. There are a few on the other side. And of course, there's the one on the power supply. But other than that, I replaced absolutely nothing. I checked probably 10, 15 resistors. They were all within spec. So what I did then was I put it back in the cabinet. And that was a little bit more complicated than getting it out. Remember, this thing only had one thing soldered, which was the antenna wire. But then I remembered those switches, you can push them all in at the same time. And that's precisely what I did. To get this in, what I did is I pushed all these in. And they do latch if you do it carefully. They all latch, and that means that when you're putting it into the cabinet, it can go in more straight. In other words, it fits better. And once it's in here, you do that, and you're back to the normal procedure. That helped a lot. If you've got to take one of these out, whether it's one like this or similar, remember that you can sometimes do that. Just a little trick. And then I had to pay some attention to the cabinet itself. And that was a real breeze, because there was almost nothing wrong with it. This is the back, and the only thing that was damaged was a little bit of the veneer that had chipped on there. If you can see it at all, that's now wood filler, which I put in there, sanded down, and then I didn't even need to varnish it or anything like that, because all I did is I used this stuff, which is that furniture restorer. It's like an oil. You rub it on, and it rubs on very easily. You let it dry, you can clean off the excess, and it comes out like this. There's no sheen. No, it's supposed to be matte. It's a wood matte, so that's the result I got. It is perfect. And on the cabinet itself, on the main cabinet, there's practically nothing wrong with it. I mean, all I did is I put some oil on there. I put one coat on, let it dry, sort of cleaned the excess, put another coat on, let that dry, wiped off the excess, and there's the result. It's looking fantastic. Of course, the fact that the cabinet wasn't really damaged helps a lot. I don't mind a few signs of age. This gives it a bit of character. But when you've got a damaged cabinet, obviously it becomes a different ballgame. This one doesn't have any of that. This one is looking fantastic. Really fantastic and truly classy. True Norwegian wood. The dial glass had a couple of little paint spots missing on this black bar over here. On where it says 31 meters to the left, there were a couple of little spots that have been scratched out there. All I did is with some very fine brush from the back, before I put the chassis in, I just painted that. You can't see it at all. The knobs cleaned off beautifully. I then also gave the brass parts of the knobs a bit of a polish. Those keys are perfect. They do look a bit strange with no labeling on it, but of course the labeling is on the front there. But they are perfect. They just needed a bit of cleaning. And this little button on top of the antenna, it was sort of goldish, fading away, scraped away, so I cleaned it off. I wasn't sure what I was going to find. I thought I might have to paint it, but as it turns out, it's this. I actually like this color, so I cleaned off the paint and I'm leaving it like this. It looks original, looks good. The antenna was clean, polished and everything else. The antenna was oiled, so it is in perfect condition, which is always great with these radios. And other than that, all that remains is to show you the result. I have tested this. I'm going to wait a few more hours. It's mid-afternoon, and give you a demonstration this evening, because that's when the AM bands are strongest. But this thing is working really well, as you will see. So I'll wait a couple of hours for you. It'll be about 10 seconds.
Ce ne sont pas du tout des mots qu'on dit à RFI. Certes, non, à RFI, nous utilisons un langage neutre ou sous le but compris par le plus grand nombre de
Sergio, un abrazo gigante y muchísimas gracias.
que has dicho de mí y que me has hecho sentir en todo este tiempo.
Pues,
Te mando un abrazo muy fuerte y a ti.
Joan, te escuchamos mañana y el domingo en los tableros de bolsillo y... De momento el descanso, empate a 0 entre Vitoria de Guimarães y el Celta de Vigo, que ya conocemos al rival de Davidovich en la siguiente... el ruso Rubles, y que Jessica Bouzas juega mañana no antes de las 4 de la tarde en los octavos de final del Mascot 55FM. Sí, Mascot player por...
Se me acercó por detrás sin avisar, me dio un susto y ya está.
Bueno, las llamas hacemos eso, pero no es...
مربوش بكم معقد وزير الداخلية عبد الوفي الفتيت اليوم في تطوان لقاء عمل مع الولاة والعمال المسؤولين بالإدارة الترابية.
Vão ser ainda piores do que nesta semana e por isso todos os cuidados são poucos. Hoje a Proteção Civil teve registro de 4 feridos em incêndios, 3 bombeiros e um funcionário do Instituto de Conservação.
Já estivemos aqui em muitas conversações e muita dinâmica durante a tarde. Olá, Tiago Ribeiro.
Olá, Inês, como é que estamos?
Estamos bem.
Motivação, excelente, requintada.
If I will always want you.
De posto emissor.
Situação mais favorável de baixar os braços. Mário Silvestre para o tempo dos próximos dias, que é propício a incêndios.
A meteorologia hippie, o Festival de Woodstock em 69 e a emergência de novas formas de expressão artística.
A situação é admissível, deve haver um processo de
29 e 30, sobretudo esses 3 dias, sendo que é expectável a da cidade de Birmingham e a direção de Kazuki Yamada.
So there we have it. We've got a radio that is looking really, really nice. It's looking very close to the original. And as far as reception is concerned, let's take it one band at a time. Long wave. Well, long wave is exactly what I expected. I get about 2 or 3 bands in the evening. We're sitting in the middle of some strange climatic conditions here in Madeira, so there's a little bit of crackling on there. It's not the same crackling that we had in the beginning. I know that for a fact. So it's back to normal. The medium wave is great. It's picking up all the Canary Island stations. It's picked up a couple of North African stations. We've got our usual local radio station on medium wave. There's only one, and that picks it up perfectly. And then shortwave. Well, shortwave is amazing. This thing is actually quite sensitive on shortwave, and I noticed something else. This tuning for shortwave is actually pretty well geared. Although we do have one shortwave band and it's very difficult to fine-tune into the stations, there's no band spread or fine-tuning. This thing is actually pretty well geared, so you can sort of get it right in there. 2 nights ago, I was listening to some of the amateur bands that I could detect on here, and I could tune that in. You've got to be very, very accurate to get that. So on shortwave, it actually seems to be quite a good performer. And on FM, well, on FM it's fantastic. It's picking up all the stations that I'm used to and some that I'm not. So this thing is really sensitive on FM. We've got the tone control. We've got that extra bass button. In fact, the bass button works in reverse. When you leave it up, it's got extra bass. If you want to reduce the bass, that's when you push it down. So it works backwards, which makes sense. You want more bass normally. So again, I'm happy with this project. This is another one that doesn't go into the bin. And yeah, quite a beauty, quite a different type of model to what I'm used to, which is the sort of thing I like to do. You know, just jump around with different models, different types of radios. And this being the second Norwegian radio has been a second pleasant surprise. So folks, I do hope you've enjoyed that. And if you have, click like, share, subscribe and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon, PayPal. Links are in the description below. So once again, thanks for watching. Bye for now. And most of all, stay sane.